Welcome back to microeconomics class. So in this class, I'll be solving this question on the board. The question goes thus. Suppose the demand function for a product is QD equals 100 minus 2P and the supply is QS equals 10 plus P. 1. Determine the equilibrium price and quantity. 2. If the government fixes the price at $40, is there shortage or surplus? So let me show you how to solve this question. It's very simple. Just pay attention. Solution. You just have to follow the rule. So the first question says you should determine the equivalent price and quantity. So how do you determine equivalent price and quantity? Know that in the equilibrium, the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied. So in other words, that is the condition you are going to use to solve this problem. Okay, you recall that in the equilibrium, QD will be equal to what? QS. So in other words, what is the QD here? The QD here is 100 minus 2P equal to QS. Our QS is 10 plus P. Then you collect the like times. Then you have 100, you bring this to this side, you have minus 10. Then equals, you have P. You take this to this side, you have plus 2P. Plus 2P. Then this one becomes 90 equals 3P. Then you divide both sides by P. So in other words, you have 90 over 3 equals to P. So 3 here 1, 3 here 3. So you have 30 equals P, then P equals 30. Now, this is our equilibrium price. PT. So what are the equilibrium quantity? The equilibrium quantity we can use functions, either the demand function or the supply function. Irrespective of the function we use, we are going to get the same quantity because from the rule, we say in equilibrium, quantity demand is equal to quantity supply in equilibrium. Plug in this equilibrium price into any of these, even at this function, we are going to get the same. Answer. Okay. Now, let's just pick any of these functions. Let's pick the demand function. So, in other words, equilibrium quantity. So, our QE, so we call it QE now. So, I'm going with demand function. Okay, is equals to QD 100. Okay, minus 2P. So, in other words, I have my QE equals 100 minus 2PE. So we are going to put this P here. So we are going to have 100 minus 2 multiplied by 30, we have 30. 2 multiplied by 30, we have 60. Then 100 minus 60, that will give us 40. So in other words, equivalent quantity is 40 units. Therefore, we have our equivalent price equals 30, while equivalent quantity is equal to 40. This is the end of the first part of the question. So, what of the second part of the question? We are asked if the government fixes the price at $40, is there shortage? That is there excess demand? Shortage is the same thing as excess demand. So, or surplus, that is excess supply. So, let's confirm is there excess demand or excess supply. Okay, so I'm going to claim this now. So how are we going to determine the excess demand or excess supply? Okay. So you remember there is excess demand if you have excess demand if quantity demanded is greater than quantity supply. And you have excess supply if quantity supply is greater than quantity demand. You know, this statement is equivalent to saying QS less than QD. So this is the same thing as this, and also this is the same thing as saying QD is less than QS. So it's the same thing. Okay, now let's go. So what we are going to do is that we are going to plug in P, that is 40, into both functions. So that is at P equals 40. So we have our QD will be equals to 100 minus 2 to bracket 40. Okay, this will be equals to 100 minus 80, which is equals to 100 minus 80, which is equal to 20. Also, QS is equals to 10 plus P, that is 10 plus 40 now. 40, then this will be equals to 50. Okay, you can see QD is equal to 20 while QS is equal to 50. So QS is greater than QD. So in other words, we have surplus. We have surplus. So in other words, there is a surplus. So the surplus of how many units? So it's going to be that is QS minus QD. So in other words, we have 50 minus 20, which is equals to 30. So we have a surplus of 30 units. So this is the end of this solution. Thank you. See you in the next video.